Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome aboard to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Bob. I am your Sensei Bob. You're out here to tell you stories, and don't believe a word I say. This show is simply for your entertainment, right? If you get anything out of it, that's on your nickel. And this show is not meant for snowflakes, childish of heart and infant, no, adolescent, no, um, selfish babies of egocentric minds should not be watching this show. Right? Anyone who has an open mind, anyone who has an open heart, anyone who is made happy by making others happy. That's what this show is for, right? And in every day and every way, we take the piece of the earth, which is love's co-creation, and make it stronger. It's not about, oh, I want this, I want the boo-hoo, and the life is so hard. Oh, I'm so disappointed that I'm not an A-lister, and I'm getting so fat and ugly. Please, look at me. I'm in my 70s. I'm not a teenager anymore, right? But sure, I could be a movie star. There's plenty of roles I could play. I'm playing this one. And that's what you have to realize, gang. First off, the big question is, who are you? What are you? Question mark. You superhero? The bat? The detective? What are you? Welcome aboard to Dreamy Dreamland. That's where you find who and what you are. So, today's story is what the old crone told me about time and space, right? Anyone have a guess? Anyone have an idea? I'd love, that's what this chatty thing here is. You're supposed to, ask questions, go on about stuff, right? More than, hey, how you doing? Yeah, nice t-shirt. Not only it's a nice t-shirt, it's got a hood. Ooh. Black on the inside, yellow on the out. Ooh. Little nippy here. So I spent most of the day cleaning, cooking, and fixing things. I raked more of the road. And, because no one else is doing it. So I'm doing all the things no one else is doing, right? And that's kind of what I do. That is my motif. Mr. Fix-It. I take care of things that need to be taken care of that no one else is doing. That's why I'm doing this show. That's what Dreamy Dreamland's about. Take that big breath in. Whenever you feel, when I was murdered by a nun, in first grade, when she crushed my larynx and my esophagus and then smashed my ear, so this ear doesn't really hear too well, but it hears other frequencies. That's the interesting thing. Made my head into a Doppler radar, right? So I have a great 360, and meaning if I drop something, I know where it is. If I hear somebody in the dark, I know where they are. If something makes a noise in the dark, I know where it is. Most don't have that, right? This eye crushed that orbit, nearly ripped the eyeball out of my head. So this eye, we normally have these belief blinders, right? We believe in things like Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church and Dane, how you doing? Doing a great job, Mr. Fix-It. Yep, I do my best. I'm not perfect, but I do my best. That's all we have to do. Just our best. We don't have to be perfect. No one can be perfect. Oh, I need to be perfect. No. You just and how you do your best is you're doing something, right? And it screws up. And you go, screw it, I'll just throw this thing together. Take it apart, redo it. So it's good. It's, that's it. That's what you do. Now, one of the more annoying things is when you have to fix other people's stupid shit. When they do something and they just, fuck it, right? And then you have to fix that, right? That's always annoying. What can I say? It's annoying. And, so anyway, it's what you got to do. And that's what's wrong with Homo sapiens sapiens, that we just don't give a fuck about most things, right? And we don't even give shit. I mean, why are people the artists in the first place? Why do people do such amazing things? Because they don't just, what the fuck? I don't care. I just do whatever the fuck, No, they actually focus on doing the right job. Miguel. Is a clone an immortal? Well, I tell you, everyone is immortal, right? We have this immortal spirit, not our soul, not our body. You are not your body, Miguel. You are not your body. Your body is just an avatar, a meat puppet, right? Mud puppet, however you look at it. And what is manifesting your animation, meaning you're walking around, do 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 do. What does that is your consciousness. And what is your consciousness? Not your mind. That little. Miguel? Have you ever seen a brain? I have held them in my hands, right? As a EMT guy, I've been with car crashes, shootouts, really horrific war zone kind of things. And, I try to stick somebody's brain back in their head so maybe they might live. It's awful gooey, That's there's two things I've not done. One is brain surgery. The other is held elected political office. Both are disgustingly messy and very smelly. Forget caps. Doing better all the time. Yep, exactly. So, immortal. Your spirit is immortal. What is your spirit, you ask? Your spirit is that which is love's co-creation, right? All that exists. When you get into physics, quantum physics, looking at dark matter, when we can only notice 0.0009% of the universe, and the rest, it's there, right kind of nearby, but we can't see it. It doesn't give off radiation. There's no X-ray, no gamma, no nothing. It has mass, it has gravity, but it doesn't, register in our very low sensory net. Now, that Nazi nun who murdered me in the first grade actually did me a great gift, because she rearranged my neural net to the point where I was first. Dr. Black came in and saved my bacon. Yep, say hello to the cadres. And anyway, and then, so she kind of, along with her cohorts in her hospital, pasted me back together on the physical sense. My, I was kind of like this, and she kind of did that. So, everything kind of worked. This eye kind of works. This ear kind of works. My voice kind of works, but it's not, And when I came out of that, that was about 18 months of being in the hospital, and then being at my godfather's house in St. Patrick's on Fifth Avenue. And if you ever gone into St. Patrick's, the big doors, you go into Cathedral, that's only about a fifth of the whole place. 2/3 of it are underground. And the rest are these in the back it's a big, tall skyscraper, and that's part of St. Patrick's. And those were offices and apartments, and Cardinal Cushing had his very fancy schmancy personal place. And when the Pope came to visit, that's where he hung out, right? And the bishop had his own place, not quite as fancy schmancy as the Cardinals, but still pretty nice. And, those guys never go, oh, how am I going to pay my bills? They never worry about that one. And he actually built, they had a little, Band-Aid stand, but he upgraded it to a, mini hospital. And I was there for, I was in Dr. Black's hospital for about 6 weeks, and then another 18 weeks I was at St. Pat's. And then I was sent off to Garden City, where the Marinols reprogrammed me. I was like the $6 million man. And I stuttered a great deal, and I couldn't talk any louder than this because my esophagus was turned sideways and crushed. Right? They made it so I could breathe. But to move air across my voice box, that was kind of crushed. So I had to learn how to rearrange my breath, right? How to focus it, which gave me, I had to learn how to have conscious intent, and the stuttering came from the little connective tissue between your brain and your voice center and your larynx. And I had to, again, use a different part of my brain to know every word I was going to say specifically, so there wouldn't be a little kind of, right? And I learned how to do that. And I learned that through meditation, and meditation helped my breath, right? And then they taught me other languages, to this part that I had to reprogram. They said, well, if you learn Latin and you learn Greek and Sumerian and Phoenician and Egyptian and ancient languages, not the modern versions, and you didn't have to. I just had to vocalize, right? Which then took this other part of my brain and turned it into a tape recorder. So everything I heard, I recorded, which is what makes me an excellent negotiator, because I listen. I have this thing called active listening. Most people don't. It shunts into their subconscious, and that's how they listen. And that's why most people don't listen. They don't hear. They don't understand, right? So I was, I had this great crew of 20 guys and about 30 women that lived not in a seminary, but in a sanctuary, right? A place of peace and love and beauty in Garden City. Big castle-y house. Some rich person gave the Marinols this place, and they turned it into a place of learning and understanding and grace and humility. And that's not the Catholic Church. That's not the Jesuits. That's not the Franciscans. Now there are other tribes in the Catholic Church that are righteous, right? And the Marinols are one of them, right? So, Sandra, right? Galvanic response or healing, like biofeedback. Exactly. That's what I was doing, right? So I was doing that at age, 7, 6 and 7, 8. At around 9, I was sent back. My parents moved to this other place in Long Island that was more rural, right on the border of Nassau County and Suffolk County. Through all these, Long Island produced more potatoes than Idaho, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that Long Island, and they had amazing oyster beds. There's Oyster Bay, Long Island, right? In a place called Oyster Bay, Long Island. Billy Joel, he's a contemporary of mine, and he grew up in Oyster Bay, which was just over, near Glen Cove, right? And so all of the North Shore, all these amazing coves and inlets and habitatories. Of course, we've destroyed them all, and there's no more oysters and no more clams. I mean, there still are. There used to be these guys called baymen who used to, and they would have these oyster beds and clam beds, right, and other fish beds where they, raise these things and harvest them without destroying them. But after, let's say 1860, everything was about money, right? And so, hey, we'll just take everything and who cares, and we'll make money right now, but it'll destroy everything later. Who cares, And that's kind of where we are right now. We are at this very interesting time. And the old crone told me about this. And she said, there is no such thing as time, right? And in space. It's all right in the moment. And when you are being selfish and ignorant and I don't care, I just fuck it, I just do it, I don't care. When you're that, you are, cursing yourself to having a really shitty existence forever. Okay. That's why, I really, when people are just total assholes, I don't, I try to enlighten them a bit, through my example, not by me, you should do it. No, I just, well, I gave me good, I was, I'm, thinking about a lot of stuff. So I'm not always, so I'll go into, let's say, the Dollar Tree, right? The dollar store, right? And I can't see anything. So I go and get a pair of glasses off the rack so I can see. And I'll buy 3 or 4 pairs of glasses, and I'll buy this and that. And I'll go through, and maybe I'll try on a hat. And I'll go through the line. I forget I'm wearing the hat. I forget I'm wearing these glasses, even though the thing is on there. The little tag. It's like that country singing lady at the old country opera there, Mimi or Mammy or whatever her name was, and she had this hat with a tag on it. Well, she was like me. She put the hat on, tried it on, and went out of the store with a tag. And when I notice it, I go, "Oh my, okay." So next time I'm in that store, I say, "Hey, I walked out with a pair of glasses and a hat, and I want to pay for it now." And usually, managers go, now there's an honest guy, right? And the person at the cash register is like happy that that's happening because that she won't get it taken out of her paycheck, right? But there's always some guy on the line going, "What are you, stupid, man? You got away with it." There is no getting away with it, really. No, New York. Yep. Minnie Mouse. Yes. Exactly. So, I'm always straight up that way, right? Now, don't believe a word I say. I'm just telling you a story here. But the old crone basically said, and I was with her for almost 4 months, right? Maybe longer to less. Who knows? Because time didn't matter. It really didn't matter. In her, I was up there for a lifetime, right? And so when she went away for, almost 4 days, and I was left to my own devices, and I drank that third pot, which I had already drank the third pot, right? It's not like I didn't know what that stuff could do. It's just that I only drank it when she poured a cup for me and we were going to go do something, right? Like we were going to go through time and space, like we were going to experience something that was not quite the linear plane that we were on, like when we were going to investigate something paranormal in a way that wasn't threatening to our life and limb, right? When it was a teachable moment. She would always go, now this is a teachable moment. Like asteroids coming towards it in outer space, the rocket ship's doing this. Now this is a teachable moment. So that's the dynamic about, time and space, is that it doesn't exist. It's just an imagination. That's why I keep trying to get you guys, and I can only suggest things. I can't make you do things. Even though I do guided meditations, it's quite interesting. Every time I go to do a guided meditation, half of the crowd leaves. You'd think more would come, but not really. Because to be able to actually go into that space, you have to be true to yourself. And how many are you true to yourselves, Because mostly as a mud puppet, you're lying to yourself all the time. You're not lying to other people because, anyone who just has a moment of understanding conscious intent and conscious awareness can see pretty much everyone lying, everyone cheating, everyone stealing, everyone doing all that, right? And it doesn't matter, I have nothing, but I have everything, right? I have no money, but I live like a millionaire on $400 a month, and sometimes less than that. Depends on you. Hey, remember, you want to get a hold of me, the DudeAwake42@gmail. 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 All one thing, all lowercase. And if you want to put anything in my PayPal, which a number of you, it's my birthday. It's still February, still my birthday. But spoilers, it's my birthday every day, except one day. And then it's the celebration of my mom, right? So if you want friends, lots of people, not lots, a number of people have sent me something on the into the PayPal, and enough that I know it works. And other people, I don't know what I do. I don't like PayPal. Well, tell me another platform and walk me through it, and we can do that. But PayPal seems to work. No one's sending me $1 million through PayPal. But some, in a usable form. There are 4 of you that send me something every month, and I truly, 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 truly appreciate that. You're really sweeties, right? So, cadres. Yep. Master Dr. Sabin Housefield says reality does not exist. Well, the reality that we think reality is, right? But again, like I'm saying, the only true thing that exists is love's co-creation. Is that spirit. That spirit. When Moses was up on the hill with the sheep and the goats, looking up at the stars, and then the burning bush showed up. Hey, what are you doing, buddy? I need you to do something for me. I need you to go back to Egypt and save our Hebrew clan. So what? It's, set them free. Well, it wasn't that the Egyptians were being treated like slaves by the Egyptians. The Hebrews were being treated no, the Hebrews were middle management, right? And they had nice houses, and there were some that were on the low end of the totem. But being on the low end of the totem pole, that is the best place to be. That's the most respectful place. Anyone who is within the indigenous community understands that the people, like the 2 elders of all, animal totems, the ant and the turtle, right? And they're on the bottom of the totem pole. Why are they the most revered? Because they are the foundation, right? So when, well, man, you're the lowest man in the totem pole. Well, that's the most revered place to be. And that's the whole thing about reality. People think, driving around in Maserati and having a big house and a lot of bling is like reality. That's like total illusion. That's totally egocentric. That's totally narcissistic, totally sociopathic, totally, I could just keep checking them off, right? And why people are so bent out of shape in these days is because we live in a sociopathic society, right? But if you take that shit serious, and that's how people get, hoodwinked into going off to war, Did we really need to have a 20-year war where we killed over 100 million people just because a few buildings were taken down in lower Manhattan? Maybe we should had investigated it like a criminal event, like it was. Maybe we should have used, the scientific motifs that we had, the criminal investigative technology that we had, but we didn't. We went straight, within hours. We said, Bin Laden, Al Qaeda, let's go get him, and there was no evidence of that, And, when all of the guys who were allegedly on those airplanes were from Saudi Arabia, and half of them turned up still alive in Saudi Arabia, running their McDonald's, it's like, and no one ever, and then, oh, wow, Iraq, they have weapons of mass, they got the aluminum tubes and that yellow can. Really? And then we send our military there and just kill millions of people, and there were no, we stayed there 20 years, and, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of reality that you have. I feel sorry for you, And now we have, the reality of, Carrot Head and the used car salesman Jojo, and now we're going to have a war in Ukraine. Really? Come on. No, not really. Sorry. Who are you? Where did you come from? That's a good question to start with, Turtle Island, yep. So, anyone has their guess, who we are, where'd we come from, what's going on? The guys like David Icke, he's fun, he's interesting. You should guys go look up Zora Neale Hurston. That's Zora Neale, Neale, Hurston, Hurston. Born January 7th, 1891 in Alabama. Died January 28, 1960, Fort Pierce, Florida. That's where I, met her grandson. He came from, he grew up with her, but that part of the family came from Jamaica. So he was definitely a Rasta boy. And if you go to my earlier shows, there's loads of, he lived in the house that she died in, right? And when my parents were in Florida, this lady was a cleaning lady, and she, American folklore writer associated with Harlem Renaissance, who celebrated African American culture of rural South. Let's see. She was a writer, biographer, an anthropologist, a painter. Just totally amazing. So go look her up on Wikipedia, and go look her up. And she went to school at Columbia with Margaret Mead. Let's see. Margaret Mead, anthropologist at Columbia. Who did she go to school with, and who was her teacher?
According to Wikipedia, Mead studied 1 year, 1919, at DePauw University, then transferred to Barnard College. Mead earned her bachelor's degree from Barnard in 1923, then began studying with Professor Franz Boas and Ruth Benedict at Columbia University, earning her master's degree in 1924.
But the most interesting of all of the people, they talk about Ruth because she went and studied the Navajo tribes, and Margaret Mead went and studied sexual habits of teenagers in the Pacific Islanders. But Zora wrote a people also asked Margaret Mead biography, contributions, theory, books. Anyway, not many people. There are a lot of people breaking amazing boundaries of understanding, but we don't hear about it, right? All we hear is this, blah blah blah, right? Just if it's not on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or whatever, it's just this. All of that is blah blah blah. It's a distraction. What you need to do is to go into state. So there's 3 of you there. Come on, kids, take that. Put yourself in a comfortable spot. Take in that breath. Put yourself in a place where you're safe. I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, you're going to go deeper and deeper into a state of conscious relaxation. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into state, and we're going to go to Akashic Record, and we're going to meet up with the old crone, and we're going to go to our go through the open door of the 9 doors of the mystery schools, and the door that is always open to us is the doorway to our superconscious mind. And we go from our Akashic Record, which is our subconscious. We go over our id, which is a boundary layer, a bridge, and we go into our superconscious mind. And we're going to meet up with the old crone in our Akashic Record. And we're going to go through that doorway, go over the bridge of our id into our superconscious mind, a sanctuary of our own choosing. And we're going to have it just a good old time with the old crone. See it clearly. So 1, you're sitting in a comfortable, safe place, and you're breathing deep. You're breathing in that prana, that energetic energy. There's incandescent light. That there's an incandescent light there, and see, there's a shadow, right? Photonic light, there is no shadow. And it's that silvery gold white light, no shadow. So it illuminates everything clearly, so there's no shadows. But why we have the shadow is that shadow gives perspective. Along the edge of the shadow is where you can see the difference, right? Where you can get insight. If it's just clear white light, that's all you see. You don't see anything else. So you only see 1 dimension. With the shadow, you see at least 2 dimensions, right? And then you have scalar light, right? And that's multi-dimensional, 28 dimensions. Scalar waves are 28 dimensions, not just 2 or 3. And in our essence, we really only experience a flat, height, width, and depth. Depth is just the illusion of our cerebral cortex, right? Or basic philosophic point of view is very 2-dimensional. Meaning, if you think your life is going from birth to death, pretty much 2 dimensions, right? That third dimension of time and space only gives a momentary place for us to have an experience. Whereas, within the Bible, everything's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning, the end, Bango, Singo. Well, we could experience that if we were to let go of our belief in our mud puppet and think, oh, I'm gonna go to heaven with you. I love God because I do everything wrong, and if you did everything wrong just because you were stupid, God would understand. But when you do everything wrong because of your ego, because I'm selfish and I want it my way, and I want, no, sorry. And that's why our world is in the state of affairs it is, because in its natural form, this is heaven on earth. But where did all those oysters go? Where did all the clams go? Where did all the shrimp go? Where did all the, all the reefs that were the mother of life of the sea go? Well, we just had to have, a power boat and a jet plane and a car, and and what were we, using that coal, and and when we were burning wood before coal, what were we doing? We were burning a living thing. We cut down a living thing and burnt it. It's just like if you were, something that could burn relatively easily, and people used it to warm their house, which, it could, you can, once you get, spontaneous. Has any of you guys ever seen somebody spontaneously combust? Well, I have. It was quite interesting. And they didn't quite spontaneously combust. What happened was they were morons, and they were rushing to finish work so they could go to the bar and drink. And, they had a big crane. We were putting up power lines, and right next to what we were putting up were big, heavy-duty, industrial transmission lines that had like 500 million volts. And instead of being really careful, they were just rushing around. And this guy was putting the coil of aircraft cable that we used on this crane to move things, right? And he was spooling it back onto its thing, and they did not ground the truck because they were just rushing. They couldn't be bothered to be doing it the correct way. And so this guy had this cable between his legs, and the guy moved the boom right into those live power lines. So the big tires of the truck insulated it. So the only thing that was grounded was the cable between the guy's legs, and it cut him straight in half. Like, do you ever have a wire and you cut cheese with it, right? It was just like that, but it basically went straight up, cut him, and blew him in 2 different directions, right? And it cauterized, right? So all his guts didn't come out, but it was bubbling and on fire, and he was still screaming, but he was cut in half, so his lungs weren't doing, he was like, he was truly speaking out of both sides of his mouth. And he had 2 different parts of his brains working. He had 2 different eyes, and for about, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds. So who knows? I mean, I wasn't him, so I don't know. But it looked pretty amazingly disgusting. And that was as close as I came to watching someone spontaneous combust. I did see someone, again, in high voltage when I was an apprentice, this guy who was he had been a journeyman forever. Meaning usually you go apprentice, journeyman, master, right? And he had stayed low, and there's 3 different forms of journeyman, right? And so apprentice journeyman, mechanic, and master journeyman, and then master, right? And this guy had just been apprentice journeyman forever, and he was just really obnoxious, and he was drunk, right? And he told I was just, there before I was really doing the job I was there to do, and he says, "Go clean up that closet." And I went over there, and it said, high voltage, do not enter when light is on, right? And so I said, "Hey, the light's on." It's like, "Oh no, what are you, chicken? Just go in there and clean up that." I said, "No, I'm not doing it. It says right there, don't do that." So he just took the metal broom from me and opened the door and walked in, and he basically vaporized, right? And it took maybe 20 seconds for him to truly, but he was screaming for maybe 5 seconds before, again, his lungs exploded and there was no more. But his mouth was open, and flames were coming out of his eyes, his nose, and his ears. Kind of interesting, And it could have happened to a better guy. And I didn't say that, but another electrician kind of went over and looked at him, and no one was going to. I mean, there was no help of this guy, And he again is the canary in the coal mine. All these characters share the same characteristic of the canary in the coal mine. Their life is all about them. It's all about me, 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 right? And the cat came rubbed against my leg, and it was trying to be sexual. Really, the cat. And the cat made this happen, and the cat made me fat, and the cat made me really. And my father, that makes me think about sexual thing. Really. And the neighbor, I can hear him going on about racist things in my head. He's putting, really. No one puts anything in your head. You put it in there. Now there aren't demonic forces. I'm not saying there aren't, but you have to let them in. Meaning, if you say, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be." Meaning, that's talking about it's all the Alpha and the Omega. That's not about, it's all about me. No, it's about the we in me, the co-creation of love's essence, a spirit, and you read the New Testament, Jesus is, thing. And again, that's like a game of telephone. There's Luke, Mark, Larry, Mo, Curly writing it down, and they all talk about the same thing. It's truly interesting. They don't have different stories about different times. They were with the guy for a number of years. You'd think they'd have more than 8 stories, but no, they all say, and it's like a game of telephone, right? I like Mark the best myself. But anyway, you never hear Jesus talk about the soul. He's always talking about spirit. And again, within spirit is all time and space. It's all dimensions. It's all 28. We are so limited by what we think we know, right? Instead of opening our heart to love's co-creation and letting everything in, right? And you're in a deep, 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 deep state of relaxation, going deeper and deeper. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. And that, if you want to get that squirrel in your mind, and that's, your mind is this like metal trap up here, Rolodex of useless names and numbers and dates and facts that don't even exist. That's the essence of his story, Anyway, you by focus concentration on that breath, right? And that's why that prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now, and at the hour of death. Amen. So I said those two prayers in two breaths. And if you do that, that brings the prana to your system. And the prana is what animates blood puppet. Nothing else, not your soul. Your soul is just a server up there in your Akashic record. That's all it is, right? It's not immortal. You don't have an immortal soul, right? Sorry. You have a limited, warranty on your soul. Now, maybe for more than one life, but lives are pretty, I've died 7 times already. So I kind of know the limitations of the mud puppet, right? And I'm just a lucky bastard, and I agreed to do certain things, and so I keep coming back. I keep, giving. They don't want to retrain me. I've already got it. So I keep coming back within the construct of this mud puppet here, and that's okay. So. And dying that way, and if you're conscious of that death, right? Conscious intent. Every time I died, I had a conscious intent. Took that big breath, filled my lungs up with prana. Then I died, and I got to understand it, right? Instead of freaking out and dying, and being sucked up into the wearing blender of karma and spat out as another mud puppet. Right? And that's, that is the business plan of the demigod Baal, right? And, Bachi, and, that Sumerian moron, he's the guy who coined the phrase God, because his real name was Gob, G-O-B, right? But God, because he liked dogs, so, put the, actually dogs were higher on the evolutionary plane than Bachi. But anyway, I digress. So keep breathing, taking in that breath. And so to say those two prayers, you have to be consciously aware to say them, right? And they aren't Catholic prayers or even Christian prayers. They're everybody's prayers, because, our father and our mother, they go together in that twin flame of love's co-creation. That's how babies get born. Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Yeah, Earth is Turtle Island. Yep. So, what can I say? Here you are. You're standing right in front of your imaginary mirror, breathing in that prana, grounding yourself in the chi, Mother Earth, Turtle Island. That's the chi. See it clearly. Be there. Right? See that glimmering imaginary mirror? That's right where our eyelids are. That's where you have REM sleep. If you ever seen anybody sleeping, their little eyeballs are zipping around. They're like looking at the imaginary mirror. See it clearly. And 2, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of conscious relaxation. Your whole body is in a passive state of relaxation. Your, autonomic system is running your body very nicely. You're either sitting down or lying down. You better not be, operating heavy equipment at this time. Not a good idea. If you should be putting yourself in a nice, comfortable place that's safe, and keep breathing in that prana, connecting it to your chi, and you see every cell of your body and just glowing. Have you ever seen your cells and take a little pinprick and you put it on a glass slide and you look at it under a microscope? It's quite interesting because you'll see the healthy cells are these great little balls and they're glowing white blue. Who knew, right? And that is the prana. And the ones that aren't doing too good are these kind of black slugs that are like flattened out, and they are purpley color. They still got a little light to them, but they're not this. So that is the prana in your body animating you. So on the microscope, usually there's 3 powers. So you put the glass slide in there, you focus it in the not the strongest power, and you'll see all of your blood, and you'll see all of these little perfectly blue guys right next to each other, and they're like flowing along and they're glowing, and between each cell there's like this white almost energy, right? But in it there's sluggy blue purpley squishiness of your blood, and then you go to the next highest power and it zooms in a little further. It's quite interesting. And I had a great teacher who was a great, it's a term I forget. She was more than a phlebotomist. She was a doctor of blood. She was an endocrinologist. She was everything blood. And she taught me about blood. And and the old crone taught. The old crone was also. She was a doctor, an MD doctor. She was all of the above. And she had her microscope. I mean, the first person ever showed me my blood cells was the old crone. Prick my finger, put it on a glass slide, put it under a microscope, and wow, look at that. And she was the first person who had, in 1969, she had a microscope that had a TV camera, and you could put it on the TV screen, which was quite, because then, she had a big TV. She put my blood on the TV screen. You didn't have to look through the little thing. It's like, well, look at that, And she could move it all around. She had these 2 little things that kind of moved the slide up and down and this way and that way. And you could, and she had this other thing. She turned different powers. She had 4 powers on her microscope. So the first person ever showed me blood that was the old crone. So that's the prana. I just explained it described it to you. There's only 2 of you who are still there in state, taking part of this, and that's what happens when I do a guided meditation. People leave. It's the best story there is. It's your story, right? So there you are, right at the imaginary mirror. You walk through, bingo, there you are in your Akashic record, your subconscious. Now, your subconscious is not a scary place. It's not where monsters live. No, it's where, now, on the imaginary mirror, things are projected that you dream about. And it is affected by your emotion, your chemical emotions, right? So how you went to sleep at night. When you went to sleep worrying about something or fretting about something or scared about something, that chemistry will affect what you see on that screen. But if you go through the screen in your dream into your Akashic record, there's no scary thing in there, right? You see everything as it is. You see it with photonic light. So there are no shadows. It's just exactly what it is. And you see it on that TV screen or the movie screen, or however you perceive it. And, so you walk through the silvery screen and bingo, there you are in your life. There's a big, big fireplace that you could drive a truck through. And all those big stones, they're actually books. Those are Akashic records, right? And each Akashic record is this, 4 foot by 4 foot, gigantic. It's like a big stone. Your librarian will bring it to you. So, there's a fireplace. Then there's these nice lounge chairs with a coffee table where guests can come visit, and they travel to you while the fireplace is so big, because it's just a little blue flame, the twin flame of love's co-creations in that fireplace. Very, very blue and very energetic flame. But the chimney is wide enough to, like I said, drive a truck through. So people come and go through the chimney to come and visit. That's when you can have anybody come and visit. And so, and the lounge chairs are, they come and they either wait for you or you can have a little snack in front of the fireplace. And that blue flame is always very comforting and warm and just makes you feel the best because it's love's co-creation. There's nothing better to make you feel better than love's co-creation. See it clearly. See, I want the three of you who are there. Feel that love. See that love. Understand that love. Love's co-creation. You and everything else. All of your relations. The we and me. That's what life is about. The we and me. It's not about me, 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 me. I. No. It's about thou. The group. Everybody. Right? See it clearly. Right? And so why do people feel miserable? Is because they allow misery to exist, right? Fighting wars, killing people, robbing, stealing, lying, cheating, all of those things don't do you any good. You don't get anything from it, right? That's why I don't do it. There is no upside to lying, cheating, stealing, killing, any of the above. None of those things are worth it. There's nothing there that but if somebody's going to kill me, I got to kill them. No, you don't. You just get out of the way. If you have a conscious understanding of your awareness of where you are, you're 20 and you're 360, you'll never be in harm's way, And if you have to confront violence, all you have to do is say the Lord's Prayer out loud, pretty much, And if you had to choose between you letting someone kill you, instead of you killing them, that is a more righteous thing to do because you're saving their life. And then they have to deal with the fact that they did that. And the same with violence, Whenever anyone's violent, whether it's physical violence, emotional violence, verbal violence, mental violence, any of those violences are more deleterious. They harm the individual who is projecting that violence than the person who is the target. Because if you have love in your heart, you'll be fine, right? And if you have the words of love, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. Right there. That says it all right there, that one prayer. And then, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for our sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen. And that's, again, it says it all there. It's all about Father Sky and Mother Earth, right? And if we are in balance with that homeostasis of spiritual understanding, there's no problems, right? That's why, it's no problems, Now, we all need to have our own worldview and our own rules, right? That actualize our worldview. And what is our worldview? So I'm a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist, right? So shaman. I'm not a shaman, but shamanic, right, is a worldview. And what is the shamanic worldview? Shamanic worldview is the we and me. To put it succinctly, it's the we and me. It's everybody. It's all our relations, right? We're all connected. We can't leave any behind. And everyone's going to get on the bus and everyone gets to go home, right? Our psycho. And what is that? It is our mental worldview. It's our psyche, Our psyche is this screen that our senses project what we think reality is. That's our psyche, right? And it has nothing to do with really reality. And what is reality? It's surely not what we think it is. It's not, money, and it's not power, and it's not this, and it's not that. That is not real. I live in the real world. I don't know where you live, but I live in the real world. The only truth there is, the only real thing there is love's co-creation. Without love's co-creation, everything that seems to exist is illusion. Right? So that's your psyche, that worldview of what you think it is, right? Now, to understand your psyche, you got to understand your psychosocial. What's your social? That is your present identification. Who are you? Well, I'm a man or I'm a woman. I'm this. I'm a that. No, but that's that's your social identification. Your job, where you live. What you like. I play baseball. I play tennis. I'm I'm a doctor. I'm a nurse. I'm a criminal. I'm a judge. No, but that's your social identification. I'm heterosexual. I'm a transsexual. I'm a lesbian. I'm a homosexual. That's your identification, your sexual identity. These are all identifications. That's your social dynamic, right? Psychosocial, cultural. What's cultural? That's where grandma and grandpa came from, right? What holidays do you celebrate? What foods represent where you came from, right? You're from Asia, you like rice. If you're from Italy, you like tomato sauce on eggplant and spaghetti. If you're from the western part of the United States, you like cows. That's your psychosocial, cultural, your celebrations, your holidays, your stories that grandma and grandpa was telling, right? Psychosocial, cultural, and then you forensically, and what is forensics? That's all the little threads that go to make the tapestry that you are. You take all those little threads apart, you look at them separately, and you look at them anthropologically. What is that? That was a discipline, a science, an ology. There's psychology, there's anthropology, sociology, and anthropology is kind of a mix of all the others, but it was invented to prove that white men were superior to everyone else. But they and whenever you have an ideology, right, an ideology, you have these rules that run it. So sociology has a nice kind of concept that you're going to take your prejudicial glasses off and look at what you're looking at without prejudice. Now, when I say to people, you're prejudiced. What are you talking about? I have a friend who's black. No, that's not prejudice. You don't like black people, you're racist. If you don't like Jewish people, you are anti-Semitic. If you don't like this, you're that. But no, prejudice means you have an opinion that you think is the only truth there is. I'm a Christian and everyone else is going to hell except me. No matter what I do, all I have to do is, go get baptized and I'll be fine. I'll go to heaven. Sorry, that's not how it works. And you're going to be surprised, when you die, when you have your little life review, you better have a good sense of humor, So, and two, here you are. You're in your sanctuary. Not your sanctuary. You're in your Akashic record, your library of your spirit's existence so far. And you got a librarian, you got an animal totem, and you got a guardian angel, right? They're to your left. Librarian brings you your Akashic record, brings you the information you need, right? You open it up, you look at it, you may not understand it, right? And the first thing you have to do, you get that book, puts it in front of it, you open it up. Oh, I gotta stand up and move. I'm gonna start to rust here. You basically open up the book, put your right hand on the right page, blank page, left on the left one, and you lean in and you evacuate. You empty out all of the fear, all the anger, all the negative emotions. Hey, fish, how you doing, girlfriend? And it spats on the page like an ink blot. And that's where they get the Rorschach test. Boom, it goes right there, right? And then you close the book, you open it up, and what you see is this big screen, right? With 28 little screens all around, right? So the big screen, that ink blot has turned into whatever that issue was, right? Oh, look at that. Oh, that's why I did that. Oh, look at this. Oh. Then you have these 28 little screens all the way around showing every different dimension. You are a multi-dimensional creature. You're not just up and down, you know. You are a multi-dimensional creature. And we have no sensory net to identify that. So unless you're meditating, unless you're in your Akashic record, unless you go to your sanctuary of your choosing, your higher self, you're going to have no idea any of this. And you're just going to be a mud puppet that's manipulated by your frigging emotions. Sorry, that's how it works. So see that clearly. This is what you got to do. You connect that prana with the chi. You illuminate yourself. You see every cell of your body glowing with love's co-creation. You go up to the field of your imaginary mirror. You go through it into your Akashic record. As your librarian, she brings you the book. You evacuate all your anger, your fear, your self-loathing. You see the issue. You see all the 28 other dimensions, angles of looking at everything. That's why I go, won't do that again. Oh, look, that worked. Oh, that didn't work out. Oh, I didn't know this. This is where you get your 20 and your 360, right? Then you can take your understanding of where you are, your awareness, and you can then be consciously aware. Boing, just like Buddha, standing by the side of the road, understanding the beauty of the universe. And some traveler goes, wow, man, are you God? He's pulling on Buddha's robe, and Buddha kind of looks at him, goes, no. Well, man, what are you? And Buddha goes, I'm awake. And when you're awake, there's no longer any issue that you can't deal with positively and get the outcome you're looking for, right? And that's why I do Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al-Bab. I try to give you the 411 on where you are, your conscious awareness, right? And then give you the ability to have a conscious intent to be that unconditionally loving individual that you are, rather than the mindless, egocentric, mud puppet run by your hormones, right? That's not you. You're a loving creature. You're a creature of love. It's what you're here to do, love, not be angry, not be vile, not be horrifically, disgustingly demonic. It's pretty easy to do, because this world is so split between love and demonic, and it's right here. It's not, we don't go to hell. We are in hell or we're in heaven. It's like you got a choice. No one's going to force you to do any of this. You have to choose. Now you can easily, the two things that people are so susceptible to is their addiction to convenience and belief, right? As I keep telling you, don't believe a word I say, you have to be aware, right? And you have to have a conscious intent. Without that, you're adrift in a sea of muck. But with it, you are sailing and navigating a beautiful, unbelievably joyous life. which you want to choose, the muck or the beautiful, joyous, happy life. You got a choice. You can do it. And I have this channel here, to just tell you a story on, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? Right? It's up to you. You choose. God ain't gonna make you do it. There is no God to make you do anything. You have this thing called free will. You are the decider of your life. Whatever happens to your life is up to you. Now, yeah, shit happens. Look at me. Tons, I get, murdered at birth by two moron doctors smoking while they're delivering me. Cigarette ashes were dropping on my little head, and actually my feet, because I was a breech baby. And my mom was drunk out of her mind, just smoking a cigarette while she's giving birth, because she didn't give a fuck, right? Except about her, right? Now, over the years, she kind of, she kept stumbling on to the beautiful side of her, right? But the mucky side would get involved. Now, that happens to us all. I'm a moron 20%, 40% of every day, but I do my best. I don't try. I do my best. I'm not perfect, but I do my best. So the outcome, no matter how fucked up things are better than most. I do my best, and I go into whatever I endeavor with a conscious intent, right? I mean, I'm here not because I'm, oh, it's too cold. No, I spent the last 3 winters. I haven't been around John for 3 years, right? Because 3 years ago, after spending almost 2.5 years with him, I realized that I wasn't doing them any good. I was just enabling this. So I left, went to the deep green, and I had things to do there, and I was doing this and doing that and going here and going there and helping people, right? And that's kind of what I did every day. And otherwise, I was in the deep green communicating with the subphylum, with all my relations, right? The birds and all the feathered, all the scaled, all the skinned, all the furred, and all of the plant families that I'm related to, right? And that was a great gift, and it gave me, it made me healthier and healthier. That kind of bioenergy, made me the healthy guy I am today. Yes, all the things that are wrong with me are still wrong with me, right? But I live in homeostasis, right? And it's, whenever I see people like John, just so tormented, it has a negative effect on me physically, But, I do my best to try and help them see a more positive way that they can go. And if I can't really help them, and that's why I came here, was to time, because John's not the only person I came to see. There were about 20 other people that I came to see if they were doing better, see where they were, if I could help them, what it is. And basically, I just kind of tied up all the strings. And, okay, it's like what I did when I left New York in 1988, Yes, the thing that kind of got me finally out of New York was getting shot at work, when I was being a New York City Housing Authority policeman. But I wasn't quite the policeman. I was more the, my real title was conflict resolution. Right? But, I was in my boss was a captain of a district, I wasn't a police, house. My partner was definitely a police, she was the wrathful, warrior of the crew, and I was the peaceful, sweetie who would go in first. I'd be the first through the door, wouldn't have a gun. Everyone knew who I was, and I could either calm down the situation, get it so everyone wouldn't kill each other, and we'd talk about it and negotiate it and get to a place where everyone was okay. But if that didn't happen, I just, left stage and let my wrathful goddess of war come in and take care of it. And she did. So we were the ultimate good cop, bad cop, good in you. Yep. So that's about the story of it all. It's up to you guys, And again, you want to talk personally, get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 at Gmail. The dudeawake42 at Gmail. And if you're in America, give me your phone number. We can talk. There are a lot of people we talk to. Let's see. Let's call up one of our friends, see if our friend answers the phone. Here we go. He's fun.
I'm trying. I can't talk right now.
Oh, I can't talk right now. Okay. When can you talk? Tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Now that I think of it, now that you got my gears turning, and I'm thinking about what you want me to think about, and I'm being led down the path of no return of thinking. Oh, and my blinker's still on. Damn it!
Well, you're saying I got you live on the chat. Say hi to everyone on the cadre.
Are you live on the air?
Yeah, I'm live on the air. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey, did you get my Kurt Vonnegut movie?
Which one?
The one that I sent you in the email.
Not yet. I'll have to go look at it. I haven't looked at my emails. I can be lazy about that one. When did you send it? When did you send it?
I thought it was very well done.
Which one?
I said I thought the movie was very well done.
Was it a Slaughterhouse 5?
No, it's a movie about him.
Oh, about him. Oh. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll have to go. I'll take. So when did you send it? How many days ago? Today? Yesterday?
Maybe 2 days ago.
Okay, I'll go take a look. Okay. Yep. Okay. Do you want to say anything to the cadre?
Wait, hold on a second. Hey, where do you live? We're near the school. You said you're near the school. I live straight down. Straight down? I'll keep going straight. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm driving somebody home right now.
Okay, why don't I let you do that? I'll let you go.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right. Hey, it's really great to be here. Tip your waitresses.
Yep.
Okay, I'll see you later.
That's my buddy. Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah, he's a good friend. Anybody read any of his Welcome to Monkey House? That was a good one. And Slaughterhouse 5. They made a movie out of that one. But so I'll have to go look at his. Let's see. Where'd the other one go? Let's see what. Come on. Oh. I have a good buddy. He writes novels. He's quite imaginative, that boy. Okay, you will enjoy this. Sounds like I'll enjoy it. Yep, I think that's what he was looking at. Kurt Vonnegut. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt was a fun guy. How did I go to Kurt Vonnegut to Girls You Want to Date? Jesus. You know, the internet would not exist if it wasn't for sex. That was, you know, the major thing that that caused the World Wide Web to be super successful. I'll have to figure that out later. Anyway, so hope you're all doing fine. I'm going. What time's it now? Yeah, it's about 8:24. My throat feels a little dry. I have to move around. My body is aching. So now, you know, practice your meditation. You know, breathe deep. Focus your conscious mind on your breath. You know, conscious awareness, conscious intent. Oh, and anybody wants to get a hold of me, the dudeawake42 at Gmail, dudeawake42 at Gmail, and we go from there. Okay. We'll try one more guy, one more person to jabber with. Now, this guy, he's Mr. Politics. He thinks he knows everything, but he's a good guy. He does his best. He tries his best. He's a good guy. He wants to do the right thing, but you know, he's like always. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. All I can do is my best. You know, that's about it. That's where I'm at. That's where I go. What happened to him? Are you there?
Yep.
There he is. So we're live on the Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I was just wondering what your take on the world is these days.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess you're talking about Ukraine and what's happening there.
Well, that's one of them. I mean, you were saying what a great president Jojo was, and that he's Mr. Peace and not war, and you know. I think he's just another sock puppet, you know, no different than anybody else, you know, in the political fashion anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, that was my main point. Was similar to Obama, the deep state, the war state, cornered him and is forcing him where they want him to go, and he is having to decide to surrender or where he can object or what he can do, but he doesn't have much leeway. But in the final analysis, I think he will prevent a war.
Won't Putin really be the person who, if they're going to give everyone a Nobel Prize for Peace, wouldn't Putin be the boy who gets it? Because my feeling is he's just going to keep those soldiers on that border. He can keep those guys in his own turf on that border as long as he wants.
Well, no, I agree. I think one thing that really frustrates me is that Putin has made really clear what his red lines are, and probably 5% of Americans even know what they are.
Right. You know, all he's saying is, you know, okay, you promised not to turn any of the people who are on our border into NATO states, and you've turned about 10 of them into it, even though you said you weren't going to do it. And now the Ukraine's a whole different matter. It's like got the longest thing on our border, and, you know, pretty much the Ukraine has been part of Russia for a long time. And, you know, we're all right with having this thing that it was, 10 years ago, where half of the Ukraine were people who thought they were Russian. The other half were people who wanted to drive Audis and be in the EU. And we were okay with that as long as you didn't make it NATO, put soldiers on our border. And that's the thing that and he said that in 2015, and Obama and Jojo twisted everyone's arm to, they had a pooch and took the guy who was running Ukraine kind of that way, and put the Nazi boy in. And now there's a new guy. He's kind of interesting. The comedian, he's a kind of interesting guy. He's a lot more interesting than people thought he was going to be.
Right, I agree with that.
You know, because he's neither. The other two guys, one was a guy who knew, okay, my bread is buttered by the Russians, so we'll have this, and it worked pretty good. They got money, they got business, plus they The other half, they were getting a lot of money, taking the oil through their land and bringing it to Germany and Europe, and everything was fine until it wasn't. And then they got thrown out. And then the Nazi guy, who was 100%, oh, we want to be part of NATO, and he was replaced by this guy, like I said, who is neither one or the other. He is, a lot stronger standing up for the Ukraine people than one side or the other. He's quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, that coup in 2014,
right?
What they did was they put snipers on the top of buildings who shot the cops, they shot the protesters,
right,
and they shot the other guys.
Right.
Okay, now what happened then was that's when Putin knew that the game they were playing against him was not a fair game. And what he did, just in the same way he stood up in Syria.
Right.
What happened in Syria was the U.S. went in, spent $4.5 billion for regime change, paid salaries for soldiers, gave them guns,
right,
gave them training to bring down Assad.
Right.
And then Putin basically said, hey, wait a minute, I'm drawing a line in the sand.
Right.
And he sent his Air Force into Syria.
Right.
Same thing is happening in Ukraine, is Putin drawing a line in the sand.
Yep.
And he's working, the Chinese and the Russians both know the Americans have been bullies all along and intend to bully them. And Putin picked his choice, his timing.
Right.
Because China knows the Americans are going to turn on them on Taiwan.
Right.
And so basically they're putting up a front, and the big game is that the nature of the world order is being shifted. The United States is recognizing that it is losing that position of hegemonic control, which makes the U.S. very dangerous.
Right, because we got all these. I mean, we spend all our money on weapons of mass. It's like the crazy motherfuckers have, their finger on the button.
Right. Well, I don't think they're not really. They don't promote actual war. They promote chaos and conflict.
Right. But it's right on the edge of war. Meaning it's so easy to slide into.
And it's going up to the edge of war because Putin's not backing down.
But he did this before. He put 70,000 guys on the border, back in 2015 or 17, somewhere around there.
Well, that was all a result of the coup to change the government.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And so he drew some lines there too. Took Crimea.
Right. Which
he had to do.
Right, because it was part of Russia. It was always part of Russia. It just kind of became part of the Ukraine when Ukraine was more Russia than anything else.
Well, it controlled the access of the Russian Navy to the world's ocean.
Right. So he couldn't let that go. Right.
He had to do that.
Right.
And he also did it pretty well. He had a referendum where something like 80-some% or 88, I think.
Right.
Said go with Russia.
Right. Because, like I said, that was always Russia. It was a Russian place.
Well, it was up until the Soviet Union broke up. And
right.
Then but anyway, But the main thing is that Americans don't understand anything about the coup in Ukraine.
And pretty much they don't understand anything about anything.
They don't understand the Minsk agreement,
right.
what that was about. They don't even know there's a war going on in Ukraine between the separatists, the Russian sympathizers, and the Ukrainian sympathizers, and the Donbass. Don't have really a clue about what that is, and that's where and we don't have monitors there. Right.
And that war is almost like World War I. I mean, it's a trench war. It's kind of bloody and disgusting. I mean, it just keeps going, bleeding.
Well, it's kind of a stalemate. Neither side are pressing it to conclusion.
Right. Because both sides, by doing that, everyone's making money.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Our economy is every single congressional district in the United States of America has a vested interest in the war economy.
Yep. The last time I was in Europe was in the 2005, and I remember I went to Poland, and in their capital city, you go to the airport, and there's this gigantic billboard of Raytheon and Lockheed saying how great it is Poland is in NATO, and we're going to give you weapons. Right there was like, okay, that's what's going on right there.
Right. And by the way, Jack Matlock, who was Reagan's ambassador to the Soviet Union, Herbert Walker Bush kept him on, was just on Democracy Now! 2 days ago, which was the very best interview of the entire coverage.
What day was that? 2 days ago? So today is the 20th or 25th?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Matlock is all you need, Democracy Now! Jack Matlock.
Okay, I'll go listen.
But he little story there, had a friend in D.C. who was invited she was the secretary to the president of the World Bank. And when Matlock was appointed ambassador, had a going-away party, and she was invited and invited me to go along.
Oh, that must have been fun.
And got to talking to Jack's wife, Rebecca, about Vysotsky, who was a Russian singer who I had recently learned about, who was like, he was like the Bob Dylan and Elvis Presley combined into one for the Soviet Union, and he did these great folk songs, but the KGB would always keep track of him and arrest him, and Brezhnev put the word down, just don't hurt him, because he's a son of Russia.
Right.
But Vysotsky is something that, he's absolutely dynamic. But I told her about Vysotsky. About a year later, I got a color photograph, 11 by 14 of her that she took at Vysotsky's grave with George Shultz's wife, Frank Carlucci's wife, and I can't remember the other person who was there, but she sent me that in the mail and thanked me for turning her on to Vysotsky.
And those two people, those three women, are probably the most powerful wives of the most powerful men of that time. Right.
So that was pretty cool. But anyway.
So you're at that party. What was the conversations you had other than, talking about Bob Dylan of Russia?
Well, that's really, that was only a few years ago, but I don't remember exactly. There were all kind of people there. Everybody wanted to talk to the Madlocks, and so you just had a limited amount of time. I just made it was mostly small talk.
Yeah, well, in events like that, the people I talk to, if I'm at a place like that, is not the big wig, but the people who are on the side who always hear shit,
Right.
And they're ready, willing, and able to have an interesting conversation because they're down on the food chain and no one's really watching them.
Right.
They're the ones, that's always the people I would talk to because they would have some pretty interesting tidbits.
Oh, yeah. But of course, this was a going away party.
Right.
This was.
Where was he going away from?
He was going from Georgetown to Moscow to be the ambassador to the Soviet Union.
No. For who? For
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. Oh, well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
The world was a different place under Ronnie.
What was that?
I said the world was a different place under Ronnie. What's really interesting was, Ronnie was all about nuclear weapons and let's go to war. And then Helen Caldicott came in and talked to him for about 3 hours and described what would happen. And he nearly shit a brick. And so about, a month or two later, he was at Reykjavik and he said to Mickey, let's just get rid of all this shit. And it so freaked, both sides handlers that they couldn't believe, they were like freaking out.
Right.
Because Mickey was all for it too. He realized that the handwriting was on the, and Russia might have stayed alive if both sides had put down the Cold War thing. But both sides had their own military-industrial complex who were never going to let that happen.
Yeah. Well, Matlock in his interview on Democracy Now! Made the point that really the dissolution of the Soviet Union was more about internal contradictions than it was the negotiations with Reagan.
Yes, exactly. And that was pretty obvious. And it was kind of obvious for at least 10 years up until that. I mean, it was those conflicts in Russia were already there when Nikita Khrushchev was. And then all those old farts who came after him, I mean, that was pretty obvious. That was, they were brain dead. There was no real direction for the Russian philosophy to go. And that's why, socialism and communism, who paid for, Marx and Engels when they wrote Das Kapital in England. Mr. Rothschild paid all their bills. They were the loyal opposition.
Interesting.
Yep. I mean, just look at Russia. The whole philosophy is a joke. I mean, it's not a viable. I mean, he starts out, okay, capitalism is bad, so we're gonna have to have this thing called communism. Then we will move into socialism, which is a nicer, kinder, gentler version of communism, and then we'll have this perfect thing that we don't even know what it is. We can't even give it a name. It's what's going to happen in like Star Trek. It'll be that, but they didn't know what Star Trek was. It was pretty obvious that there was no real meat to the bone of that philosophy, because Das Kapital, its whole thing was everything was about stuff, the materialism of life, and in reality, the materialism of life is not the most important thing.
Right, unless you're a capitalist.
Yes, well, and they're deluding themselves because I don't know. Well, you come from a pretty well-to-do family. All the well-to-do people that were they ever very happy, or were they just wanting more stuff?
Well, I think people are happy or unhappy, not really relating to money. I've known poor people who are happy and unhappy, and I've known rich people who are happy and unhappy.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Money is almost irrelevant, and to focus your whole life on the material acquisition of stuff, you're not going to be very happy. If you got it, that's cool. If you don't got it, it's all right. I mean, I live like a millionaire on $400 a month,
Right.
So,
Well, one of the problems the military-industrial complex has is that if you don't keep your guys hired working full-time overtime,
right.
if you start atropizing your system, then they start getting hired away by other systems.
Right. And that's
so
part
yes. They're kind of trapped into
doing
having
that.
to keep the research and development moving forward and viable and alive and healthy.
But, the thing about that is the military-industrial complex, its product is death. And that technology you can use for other things than blowing stuff up. And so if they could...
The point I made was that if you just make that decision, what happens is in the large scheme of things, your scientists get hired off from you and they go somewhere else and start working for somebody else.
Right. But what I'm saying is if you want to really, and that's kind of what they did to a certain degree in the 60s and 70s, or 50s, 60s, and a little bit of the 70s, was they took that technology of blowing things up and made microwave ovens and cell phones and laptops and stuff like that. And if they did more of that, but they continue, like a good example is Big Pharma and HMO medicine. Most of that is military technology, and why we spend more money on health and our health gets worse and worse is that it's not really based on a positive outcome. And the military industrial complex isn't based on a positive outcome, you know?
Tell you what that reminds me, I think it was probably 50 years ago, they could actually, from space, they could read a license plate.
Right.
But they didn't make that available to the economy, to the people, to have better maps, to have better photographs of property.
Well, they did 20 years because your basic smartphone is a miniaturized version of the keyhole satellite. I mean, everything about it.
But for a long time,
yes,
until Google took over from it,
right,
they kept the benefits into the military system.
Right. But like I said, your smartphone is basically a miniaturized version of the keyhole satellite. I mean, every operating system, everything is that.
Right.
And so, you know,
yeah,
it took them 20 years.
The only point I'm making is that the military system is not interested in us having a better lifestyle.
Oh, that's and yes, 100%. That's my point of view.
This is my point on Biden.
Right.
Biden is in a trap. Here's my theory on Biden. He's been in politics his entire life. He's now an old man. He's now got grandkids. He now knows that what he does or doesn't do is going to shape the future of the world. And so he's trying to dance out from underneath the neocons and the military-industrial complex. He's trying to manage them. The last thing he wants to be done is be seen soft on communism, soft on defense, soft on Russia. You know, that's deadly. So he plays the game of being tough, but at the same time, he knows, my prediction is that Putin will get what he needs from Ukraine. He will get, as Putin has said, his deal is that if they put missiles in Ukraine, that puts them 9 minutes from his capital city.
Right.
When they get hypersonic missiles, that'll put them 5 minutes from his capital city.
Right.
And he can't live with that.
Right. You know,
and he will get that. And the reason is that most of the other countries, the Germans, the French, the other people who are not kissing ass to the Americans, have been concerned for quite a long time about our leadership.
Right.
And now we're pumping up this conflict with the Soviets, trying to bring them back under hegemonic control.
Right.
And the Europeans are saying this is really not what we're in this for.
So, you know, my little sense is that, you know, we have been in a centralized world government, for at least 200 years, if not more. And but with the advent of instantaneous communication, things aren't, you know, as slow as they used to be. And so what's going to happen is empires would take 50 to 200 years to collapse. And we are, you know, we have already collapsed, you know, and our dollar is going, just like the pound stopped being the, world sovereign currency, the dollar's going to go away. And that's it. I mean, basically, for at least 70 years, if not a little bit longer, we have just been printing money, and people have been giving us stuff for worthless paper. And at a certain point, I mean, we don't make anything anymore, period, you know? And our businesses, car manufacturers go on and on, oh, we don't have any chips, we can't make any cars, we have to close the, well, no. The problem is that the chips that the chips that they're going to put into a car on the assembly line this year are chips that are 20 years old. They're 10, millimeter chips, whereas Tesla has 1 millimeter chip. General Motors motherboard has 100 chips on it, and and Tesla makes their own control chip. So they're not having any problems with making, cars, their chips. So, and the other thing is, electric vehicles, they will be the predominant vehicle on the road in 10 years. And people won't own a car. They will hit a button on their smartphone and a vehicle will show up. And our whole economic base is not even thinking that way. We're still thinking in the 1950s. And that is our real problem economically, because, when I was in the corporate world, I kept saying, guys, you got to think in a little different way, because you're just thinking about quarter by quarter. Well, we're making more money every quarter. That's all we want. I said, what about 10 years from now? Oh, well, just as long as we make more money each quarter, right? So that is like the kiss of death, and we haven't learned how to even think past that. So one day, there's not going to be anything on the shelves because we don't make anything anymore, and no one's going to take our worthless treasury notes anymore, period. That's it. The only reason they are is because China and Japan have a shitload of American treasury notes that they can't just, say, okay, we're not going to use this anymore. They've, given up so much shit. I mean, it would hurt them economically if they let the dollar go away. But once they figure out how to get around that, the dollar's going away.
Well, you might be right. I'm not that keen on, or up on economics enough to understand it, although it's pretty clear that the whole system is fragile, and who knows how it's going to go. I don't know. It's just hard to say.
Because, you're as old as I am, right? I'm 72. You're in that zone, right?
Yeah, I'm 79.
Right, yeah, you're older than I am. So you've experienced the crashes. I remember there was one in the 50s. There was one in the 60s. 72 was the oil embargo was a total revamping of the economic motif, and then and that gave rise to Mr. Rothschild told Mr. Nixon to go to China and basically hand the American economy over to China. And that's what happened. And it was very obvious. A lot of economists were going on about that. And then Mr. Rothschild, we used to have our economy was based on not only gold, but our GDP, what we were producing. And what happened with the oil embargo, the gold went away. Our money wasn't backed by gold anymore. And it wasn't backed by, the toaster ovens and the refrigerators. It was backed by America's individual people's GDP. America to this day still is more productive. Like it takes 4 Chinese to produce the same GDP that we do. Now, the thing that is really different is that the Chinese worker is way more motivated than we are, because just 2 generations ago, everyone was eating dirt. Now everyone has a house, everyone has a car, everyone has a refrigerator, has food they can afford, and they have a life way better than 2 generations ago. But it's this really weird slippery slope because they didn't let enough people get born. They are the pyramid turned upside down. That generation between 15 and 30 is about 20% of their total population, and they are doing 80% of the work. And they have a population of like 50 to 80 that's doing nothing, and that's 40% of their population. So that's their biggest problem right there. And even if they bring in robots to do everything, it's still not going to fix that problem. And they are also what's really strange about China is that they are extraordinarily racially diverse within their own culture of Chinese people. They got about 40 different, like the Uyghurs, and there are lots of different different groups, but they're all Chinese, and they all hate each other. Where in America, we got all the Germans and you name it, and we kind of get along because we've been doing this forever. So that's one of our strongest. We need to bring in more Mexicans, more people from south of the border for America to be strong, and that's the interesting thing. There are all of these amazing twirling plates going on. And until the world is totally integrated, it's no longer, we don't even have nation states anymore. And there are all these different groups of, like look at, the EU, and anyway, so we are really at one of the more interesting times in the human experience, like more than, 16,000 years. And so it'll be interesting to see and we're living here, you and I, and we're old enough to remember things that people who are younger don't even have a clue on. It's not in their resume. It's not in their DNA almost.
It reminds me, one time I met a woman who was head of the school board in a county in Tennessee, and I said, made the point that kids don't know anything about the Vietnam War anymore. And she said, oh, they're not interested in that.
Right.
So we're not educating our kids. We're not nurturing our kids.
Right. Or ourselves. We're
getting ready to make abortion illegal and have kids that are not wanted be raised.
Right.
Unloved kids be raised. The consequences of that will be humongous.
And, when I was in sixth grade, I went, when I was in third grade, I moved to this very rural part of Long Island that was about to change extraordinarily. It was going to be like the suburbs of New York City, right? But just before I showed up, it was all farms and estates of really rich people. But within 10, 15 years, bango, it was totally different. And so the school district that I moved into decided to become, or it was going to have to become, a different school system. They used to have little red schoolhouses that kids in this farm district and that farm, and they put them all in the big high school, and then they built a brand new middle school, right? So they totally changed it. And for some unbelievable reason, they decided, since they were going to change everything so drastically, they were going to do the best they could do. So they changed everything to an amazing point where we were all amazingly educated. And I took biology for the first time in sixth grade when I was smart, when we were all smart enough to understand what they were talking about. And we had a great teacher and he explained everything from the cell up. And, by, Halloween, we were at a place where we were talking about reproduction of the human being, right? The egg, this semen. Then and it was just at a time when oral contraceptives were coming online, and the church was all upset. In our biology class in sixth grade, he goes, well, you kids, in about a year or two, your hormones are going to pop. You're going to have to deal with sex. And so he explained to us how to have birth control. Really good, competent. He goes, the Catholic Church has this thing called rhythm. And women have a cycle. Now, every woman's different, so every cycle is different. And he was really good at explaining how you couldn't make human physiology mean one thing. Everybody's different. So everybody has to be responsible for their own physiology. So every woman's cycle is different. But he explained that when you are ovulating, when there's a discharge from your vagina, that's kind of mucusy. If you put your finger down there and you stick it in there and you pull it out. And what was the best thing about this guy, he made our bodies not be something squirmy or, oh, I can't talk about that. It was like, this is how it works. This is what you are. So he said, okay, if you stick your finger in there and you have mucus and you can see it like stick together, well, you shouldn't have sex, period, right? And you should, your calendar is your friend. Your cycle may change a little bit. So But you can know when you're going to ovulate, like within a 6-7 day period. And if you stick your finger in there and it's mucousy, so those are two major things. Now, guys, he said you shouldn't give women chemicals because it changes their whole body. But guys, depending on their blood type, they're swimmers, right? If your blood type is a certain type, your swimmers may like it warmer, right? Will be more active if they're warm. And if they're cold, they'll slow down. Their sperm modality go way down. So if your swimmers like it warm, you wear, baggy underwear. If your swimmers like it cold, you wear tidy whites. And if you do that, guys, your sperm modality will go down by at least 80%. So if the girls are looking at the calendar and sticking their finger, and the guy, you're going to stick your Johnson in there, you can stick your finger in there, and if you see it's a little mucousy, you know not to put Bob in there. And he taught us that, and it was amazing because no one for the next 3 years I was with these kids, no one got pregnant. Everyone started fucking at 6th grade. We were fooling around in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. We were doing it, No one got pregnant, period. And I exercised that for the rest of my life, and I never got anybody pregnant. It's that simple. Do we teach that in school? No.
They get put in jail now.
Yeah, exactly. And do we teach kids anything about banking? Or how to save money or business or any of that.
How to eat.
Or how to eat. Yes, exactly. How to eat. None of this, right? So it's pretty obvious that, there's a small group of people who want, their populations to basically be serfs, So that's how we're being treated.
I don't know whether it's motive. They want them to be serfs or this is just the MO that works.
But works for them on a very small, like I said, when I was in the corporate world and I kept saying, hey guys, you are driving your bus off the cliff here because yes, you may be making a 20% profit each quarter, but that's really 0.0004% interest of the big picture. And on the other side of this, you are destroying your means of production. Like if you're going to take all of your means of production and take it to China because you can make 3 cents more on a widget because it's being made by slaves in China, your industry is going to not be around in another 5 years. And pretty much all those industries are gone. I mean, we don't make it. The only thing we make is weapons.
Yeah, well, that's, the assumption always is that we'll figure it out.
And the chaos that we see right now is a pretty good, definition of, boy, we haven't figured it out.
But you know what? There's another aspect to this. That the people are starting to wake up.
This is true.
The frailness of their media.
Right.
The foolishness of their system, and for example, on this thing when they kept making a big deal about Russia's going to invade on Wednesday.
Right.
The next day, you've got a public news hour correspondent saying, "Why should we believe you next time when you got it so wrong this time?"
Right. Well, how about weapons of mass destruction?
Right.
We should have really learned by that one, and that's almost 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. But what's happening, I think, is that the people who want to manipulate the system know in order to do that, you got to fertilize the system. You got to get correspondents in position will do what you need. You have to have people afraid of doing what you don't like. And so they've managed to put the system in place that promotes their policies and where they want to go.
Well, Noam Chomsky wrote a book in the late 50s, early 60s called Manufacturing Consent. And he described exactly what we're experiencing right now to the T, you know?
And so what I'm saying is, though, that it's reaching the point that people are seeing through it because they get more frantic about bringing that about, and that frantic behavior is easier to spot.
Well, I mean, it was pretty easily spot in Vietnam, you know, the Bay of Tonkin resolution. I was like, I don't know, I was like in grammar school, and I knew it was a bunch of crap. You know, when I saw on the news, you know, what they were talking about, and I'm saying, so where's the blown up boat? You know, where's the Pearl Harbor here? And there wasn't one. And they didn't even have dead people, you know? And we're going to go to war over something that really maybe didn't happen. And then, you know, 50 years later, you find out it didn't happen, you know? But when it was going, I remember watching it on the news saying, there's something wrong here. And I was like, I don't know, let's see, that was 1963. So I was 13 years old. I would guess I wasn't a child, but, you know, it was, you know, it was like, I don't know about this, you know.
Well, yeah, so you're right. We come along later and invade Iraq on false pretenses,
right.
But everybody in the world knows the United States used false pretenses to go into Iraq.
Right.
It's not contested by one side or the other. Everybody understands what we did.
But when we went into Iraq in 91, it was under false pretenses, you know? There was, you know, that girl who was on the TV, and I saw them throwing babies on the ground. No, she was, you know, a diplomat's daughter who hadn't been home in 5 years. She was like going to Juilliard, learning how to be an actress.
Well, there's no question about it.
Right.
I mean, you know, that's the ability to have control over the media, that you get those kind of interviews.
Right.
Before the country.
Right.
Know?
And going on and on. I mean, like the way they just, you know, for like 3 months, they did the falling of the World Trade Center. And when you look at that picture of the building falling down, and it was a waterfall of dust, you know, there weren't big chunks. It was just everything was like liquefaction of the building. You knew something was wrong with that picture. I did anyway. You know, I as an apprentice electrician, I worked on that building. I knew that building couldn't come down like that. But
it did come down like that.
But it was caused by it wasn't caused by the airplane hitting it. It was caused by a space-based energy weapon. It basically took the atoms apart and turned it into dust. It was because if it was the way physics works, and the way the building was built, that each floor, you know, if one floor actually did collapse, it would have made the floors below it stronger because the building was supported by an exoskeleton, not anything in the inside. And so if it collapsed, it put more pressure on that exoskeleton to make it stronger. That's how it was designed. And so it couldn't have fallen faster than gravity, which it did. You know, if they had a bowling ball on top of it and the building started to fall, that building hit the ground before that bowling ball. It was going faster than gravity, meaning it was pushed down. And each floor, if one floor hit the next floor, it wouldn't make it go faster and faster. It would hit that floor. And then that stress, if it was going to fall, it would take seconds, if not minutes, for the next floor to go. Then, you know, it would have taken 20 minutes for the building to fall down, but it got turned into dust. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you look at that picture, it was so gobsmacking. But if you step back and understood physics and looked at it, you would go, wow, this ain't what they say is going on. And the other interesting thing is, they didn't even want to investigate. It wasn't, you know, they wanted to go straight to war. You know, within 20 minutes, they said, oh, it was Al Qaeda and this bin Laden guy. But it wasn't, you know, should have been dealt with as a crime scene. but it wasn't. Immediately, the night, oh, we're going to look for bodies. They started taking it away. They had built the ramp. They had gigantic dump trucks taking it away, and within a short period of time, all the evidence was gone. Most crime scenes, like when the Murray building came down, right? They, put it as a crime scene, and they didn't let anybody touch that thing for months. But they started taking the shit out of there a day. Within a day, they were taking shit out of there, right? And putting it on barges and taking it to China, not even putting it in dumps in America so people could look at the shit. I mean, there were so many hokey things about it. And when the congressional people, had their hearing, do you know who the scientific experts they used? Popular Mechanics. I mean, they had national laboratories. They had, all kinds of, government laboratories that could have who knew the science. They didn't use those guys. They used Popular Mechanics, not even Popular Science, Popular Mechanics. And then all of the scientific people got really upset, came together and started a thing called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And they wrote, a gigantic, voluminous, scientific, taking it apart forensically, and showed that it wasn't the airplanes. It couldn't have been the airplanes. The way the building was built and everything, they did it. Did that get any coverage whatsoever? If it ever saw the light of day, it was called a, what do they call those things? A conspiracy theory.
Right.
And so.
Well, it's real clear they had an event that they planned to capitalize on, and they didn't want the facts, whatever they were.
Whatever they were, right, exactly. So that's the thing that people really need to start to see. And that's what I don't see people seeing. They are understanding something's wrong, but they're allowing their emotions to sway them, right? They're not really trying to suss it out, to forensically take it apart, to analyze, because they're not trained or have any experience in doing that. They're just been, bred to respond emotionally to their hormones, to fight or flight.
Well, yeah. I can't disagree with that.
So that's my observation of the general public. Now, the one thing that I look at as a guy who looks at long-term trends is the one thing that is like our saving grace is the unexpected consequence. The only reason we're still freaking here is things come out of left field that kind of right the boat. They're always talking about our political structure, how it has this metronome of going one way and then coming back the other and swinging back the other. Well, that's within the structure of it. It's the unexpected consequence that does that metronome thing. So it's so far we're still here. I'm amazed that we're still. Why I went whole hog on hedonism in the corporate world, I found myself in the middle of it, looking around going, Normally, I might not have, dove into that pool, but I did because I really said, the world shouldn't even be here. I've kind of watched where we shouldn't be here. So, well, okay, I'm going to have the opportunity really to have one heck of a good time. So, yes, if I really go whole hog on this, it probably will kill me. But hey, I'm in my 60s. What's the big diff? I don't have any kids. I have nobody to really stick around for. So yeah, I'm going to have one big send-off party, but I didn't die. So I had to come on the other side of it and lose the weight and get myself to a place where I can survive and do this other interesting thing I'm doing. So that's what I'm doing. But that's what I'm saying is that shit's going to happen that people don't have a clue what's going to come down. And it's this metronome thing. It's, you think things are weird now. it's going to swing way. We are like just 20 degrees in the upswing of the weirdness. You know, we're not even at the height of the weirdness.
You might be right. I have a tendency to think that we're at a turning point, and that the pandemic has disturbed all of our habits, and we're actually at a point where we can start doing things differently. And I just think that the world is changing now. It's changing from, the United States imposed hegemonic control on all the world, and we colonized the world economically, and we're having to reshape and get our act together and start raising our kids right and training our teachers, paying our teachers, just investing in the next. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I think we've turned a corner here, and I think Putin has helped us do it, basically. He helped us do it in Syria.
Yeah, after we destroyed a beautiful country, after we killed millions of people.
Right. Yeah, what Russia and China are both saying, you guys have been ignoring the United Nations for a long time.
But you don't think
you're operating outside the law of the world.
But you don't think they are part of this? I mean, like I said, they're the loyal opposition, meaning they are part of the global hegemony. It's not just the United States forcing global hegemony. It's a globalized, not just, the Bilderbergs ain't just Americans. It's like all those rich, elite, power-hungry, crazed cockroaches are trying to, and what I'm saying is that there is another element inside this structure that those guys don't pay any attention to, and that is
when you say China is the loyal opposition.
Yep.
Explain that.
Well, a good example is, so there they were, Chairman Mao. They had the Cultural Revolution when it killed, close to 160 million of their own people. And then Nixon shows up with Henry Kissinger and says, hey, why don't you get more part of the club here? And we are going to take a big chunk of our capital and resources and give it to you and make you the major manufacturer, just like England did to the United States. You're going to be the new United States. We tried to do it.
I don't think that's what Nixon and Kissinger went to China on. They went to China on bringing China into the world economy. I don't think they intended to put China in charge.
Then how come we did? How come within a 20-year period, we moved our whole industrial might into China, just like England did to the United States?
Well, it was done on an individual. I mean, my brother, his friend asked him, how come you're making your sandals in China? My brother says, the dollar bill.
Yeah, right.
Okay, now, he went to China because it was cheaper to do. We didn't give it to China. He went to China to capitalize on what the market was doing. So when you say that that Nixon and Kissinger went to China to make them in charge, I just don't see it. I think
no. I didn't say that. I didn't say they were put in charge. See, the United States, when England brought the industrial might of England into the United States, around 18. That's kind of what the War of 1812 was almost about, because after, between 1820 and 1840 and 60, England moved its industrial might. Especially, the best you could show how they did that was England was the largest producer of cloth. They had the industrialized, machine looms, right? And they moved all of that into New England, right, in that period between 1820 and 1860. And that was the big manufacturing profit entity. And part of that is because a good deal of the cotton used to come from South Asia, but then it came from the United States and basically Mississippi and that whole southern chunk there. And they moved it all into the United States, and they made their profit, and they didn't have to worry about manufacturing at all. But they made the same amount and more profit that they had made when they were doing it in England, but their people lost all their jobs. They went into another serfdom. And that's when they became a world imperial power, because one thing, what do we have to do with all these? We'll make them soldiers. We'll send them to India. We'll send them here. We'll do this. We'll do that. And we'll make even more money. And they did that, and it was profitable to a certain point. So they moved all of that kind of manufacturing into America, and we did the same thing. We industrialized. We had our big war first with the Indians, then with the Civil War, then we had the Spanish-American War, where we took over more property with the Spanish-American War than was in North America. I mean, we got all of Asia pretty much, and all of South America, was our backyard, manifest destiny. And all of those resources, we just gobbled up and threw into our industrial might. And when we turned all of our industrial might over to China, first with, making, crappy shit. I mean, we did that with Japan, but Japan was too small of a place to now the Japanese are smarter. I mean, China is going on about how they want to rule AI. Japan already does. Have you ever seen any of the Japanese robots?
They're pretty sophisticated.
They are the most sophisticated. They are it. I mean, they have robots. You can't even tell that robot's not a human being. It looks like a human being and actually talks to you. There is no, it's not like Will Rogers, Danger, Danger. No, their robots look like human beings. They don't have like mechanical hands. They look like human beings. They talk to you. You can have sex with them, So their AI is the most sophisticated. You name it, they got it. But they're a small country. China's gigantic country, gigantic population, gigantic, but their industrial, they're because of their political structure and their cultural dynamic of the last 100 years, they don't have the entrepreneurial context that the United States has or Europe has. And it doesn't have, and the country that has the most of all of that is Africa. If we weren't so, got our foot on their throat, that is a continent that is going to explode and be amazingly. And China understands that, and their Belt Road thing is understanding that. And China, there's they understand that they can't do it. They have to move into the rest of the world with their belt. And so instead of building the military bases that we did, they're building ports. And they're not even doing what the U.S. Export-Import Bank and the World Bank did, where we say, oh, you need this infrastructure here, let us do it. Now we own your country. China goes in and builds the infrastructure and says, okay, we're going to lend you this money, but we're not going to you can pay us back when you want to pay us back, because they realize that infrastructure will make more money for them than trying to get cash out of their country, trying to like you said, have this kind of control over them. Much better to have that silk thing rather than the barbed wire thing, right? And so that's where China is, and that's their one. If they do play that right, they'll be the ruler of the world, but in a more silk kind of comfortable way rather than the barbed wire, right? So it's an interesting, like I said, we're at a very interesting time, and the outcome is the unexpected. We have no idea what's going to come out of all this, pretty much. Where other points of history, you could say, okay, this empire falls, this one's coming up, this one's, you could see that. But what's going on now, it's like, because China has a lot of problems, and that no one's really, enumerating. And like the one I really see as the biggest one is the upside down pyramid. That they're small, 20% of their population is keeping the rest of the thing going. And even if they get robots to do everything, it's still not going to work out unless they can truly. Do you know any Chinese people? Have you ever met any, like your brother who makes the sandals? Have you ever met any Chinese people through him?
I've only known a couple of Chinese.
Right. So what was your take?
Well, they're basically, pretty honest, straightforward people. Kind of amazed at how Americans understood their rights, how they were used to being managed there. I don't know. Let's see. I'm just rambling on here, but
I'll tell my experience from meeting Chinese people. As individual people, they're just like individual people wherever you go. There's good ones, bad ones, in between ones, right? And there's enlightened ones, not so enlightened ones, but ones who are very nationalistic or prejudiced, meaning their opinion is what they think it is. And in China, most people's opinion is the opinion that the state gives them to have, right? That's how their structure is. And so because of that, they have a very rigid structure, right? And in that rigidness, they can be very obnoxious, very controlling, very, not very diplomatic. And on an individual basis, they're actually quite nice. And if you are respectful of their culture, they're very nice, right? Pretty much everybody, if you're respectful of their culture, they're very nice. Everywhere I've been around a lot, and you have too, and I'm sure your experience is, you're respectful of their culture, people are very nice to you. If you're the ugly American, they don't want to talk to you, right?
right.
Chinese, especially when they go in groups, they have a real hard time not being the ugly Chinese American. Like, when Chinese come and visit America, have you been around when they've done that? They come in groups, and they really are, down in Florida, Floridians really don't like the Canadians because they kind of come in groups. And there was a period in the 60s and 70s and 80s when the, Canadians came in large groups, and because they did, their money had a power about it. And the Floridians who grew up there were Floridians, not New Yorkers who came and were Floridians, but Floridians kind of really didn't like the Canadians. And that's how the Chinese can be when they're in a big group, because they're very nationalistic, and they have real severe prejudices, which means they have an opinion that they think is right. And it's very interesting to see if they can ameliorate that with this understanding of having this belt road and being, because they really do understand the silk thing rather than the barbed wire thing. They really do understand that. But it's a very interesting thing to see if one of their characteristics will be stronger than the other, if they can learn. See, if they can learn better than we never learn shit. As America, we haven't learned shit. We didn't realize that we were being fucked. We thought we were better. We thought we were exceptional. Blah, blah, blah. We're not. We've been played, basically. So it's not what it seems to be. That's the real issue. Nothing is as it seems to be. Like 9/11 was a great example of that. Up until then, everyone thought the world was going, everyone was worrying about, Y2K. When I was in high school in 66, and I was taking, I was taking physics and computer programming. And our professor was a Jesuit, and he had been at Bletchley Park, during World War II, cracking codes where they had computers. And he knew Turing, and he knew all those guys. And he said that he explained to us what was actually going on. And he said, and this is 1966, he goes, the year 2000 is going to be a big scare because we're going to really be depending on computers. And because the clock is ending then, everyone's going to freak out. They're going to think that all the computers are going to crash and we're going to go back to Stone Age. But he goes, what do you do with a clock? You reset it. And he goes, the only reason why the clock is coming to an end in the year 2000 is that when we started this, we only had so much memory in these computers and we could only have our time base go to this. But, we never thought our memory was going to expand. We weren't thinking about the semiconductor. And they knew about it, but they weren't thinking, it was going to be what it was. So they said, all they're going to do is, he said this in 1966 to me. He said, all they're going to do is reset the clock. A lot of people make a lot of money. A lot of people will get a lot of power. That's all this is going to be. And it'll be a real diversion for the changing of the world. He goes, the year 2000 is way more important than this event that is going to be a non-event. And it was, the whole Y2K thing was just a bait and switch, to distract us from the new thing that was coming. The new version of hegemony of the neocons. No one knew what a neocon was, until 9/11.
Well, that's not true. I mean, the neocons came into power when Reagan came into power.
Oh no, that's true, but it was still this, Then, see, people didn't realize that Bill Clinton was a neocon. George H. said, I wish, Bill Clinton, he's like my son. He said that more than, George W. got a little peeved by his father constantly saying, he's my favorite son.
My favorite what?
George H. Bush called Bill Clinton his favorite son.
Oh, okay.
And,
the neocons have basically been making our policies now for 25 years.
Oh, man, they've been making the policy since the Civil War, basically. If you really if you go back and deconstruct all the things, it's pretty much straight up the neocon, the idea of money is what it's about. That's what the neocon, money is power. Power is all that is worth going after.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think the neocons have married the capitalist, the military-industrial complex, but I think they both gain from conflict, and they create conflict so that you manage the system and stay in charge.
Right, but that's been going on since the Civil War.
Well, there's always been someone trying to manage the system, but when you say the neocons basically were a group of people who looked at the world a certain way, who wanted America to use power, who basically American Zionists is who they are.
Yes, I like that. But hold on just for a second. I'm going to ask Google what the neocon is. Let's see what Google says. What is a neocon?
Here's the definition of neocon. In politics, a person with neoconservative views.
Well, that's a bit too simplistic. That's a neocon. Well, we can't tell them what we are, so we're just going to have Google say, it's like using the same word to explain it.
Oh yeah, they're not going to get into political stuff like that.
But to use the same word to give it a definition, that's like, many of my professors would have blown their brains out over that one. Ow.
Well, they're not. You know, it's a very politically correct. You know, when you start talking politics about managing the system,
Right.
they're not going to get down and say, you know. But something that many people are not aware of was that Jimmy Carter, as president, kept talking about wanting to bring, in his second term, he was going to get to resolving the Palestine question.
Well, that didn't work out too good. He tried. I think he
So
came
what
to the
happened
closest.
was
Yep.
the people who didn't want that to happen got together to bring Carter down.
Yeah, pretty much. But he was so naive. I mean, pretty much, you know, they put him in because they wanted him to be taken down. He was the easiest person in the Democratic Party to take down. I mean, he came out of left field, and it took him forever to become governor of Georgia, and he was put in that place, right? And then
I don't buy that.
Right.
He was put there by who?
By the neocons, that's who.
No. They weren't in power at that time, really. The way they did it was they set up the conventional wisdom was Carter's going to win. If he gets those hostages out of Iran, he's going to win. If he doesn't get the hostages out, he's not going to win.
And that's why George H. made a little deal with the Ayatollah in Paris.
No, the people who made the deal were the Israelis.
Okay.
Okay, the Israelis made the deal of swapping the
but again,
to the
that's
that's weapons to Iran.
Right. But that's my whole.
And wait a minute.
Right.
So what happened was Casey is the one who went along with the plan to make sure Bush wasn't elected.
Right.
Once Reagan was elected, Casey had to go to him and say, I didn't tell you this before, but we worked with the Israelis to set up a way to make sure you got elected. And so now they own us. And that's when Gene Kirkpatrick, William Bennett, Pearls, I'm spacing now, but there's about 25 of them. They all came into government right at that time. They all got into government right at one time.
Those were the neocon usual suspects. I mean, especially the guy who became the overlord of Iraq once we went in 2003. What was that guy's name? Wolfowitz. But no. Bremer. That guy, he is every place where we screwed up the worst. He was there. He was there in Vietnam. He was there. You look at all the catastrophes. I'm sure he was there when Biden was making a fool of himself in Afghanistan this summer. I'm sure he was there for that. I mean, he's the most amazing. He's like the Forrest Gump of backdoor fiascos that certain groups make a tremendous amount of power and money out of. But anyway, I'm about to fall asleep right here. I appreciate your being here and being part of the live chat. We'll do it again. It's been fun. I got to go to sleep. I'm like,
all right, man.
I'm about to crash. Later. Okay. See you, buddy.
Take care.
Yep. Okay. So that was fun, right? A little bit of that. And Jane goes, when did humanity become the enemy? Well, buddies, the power structure, we've always been the serfs. We're manufactured. This mud puppet is a manufactured slave, right? And Jane, clearly the elite hate humanity, right? Exactly. Who is the elite? But that small group of people, my friend there, so he's been watching this from a certain point of view, for his whole life. Like he said, he's like, 86 or 89. He's in really good shape. That guy is like, he's a, his parents, his whole family's been rich, never really had to work. So he's been, he's been a activist kind of guy that has his point of view. So he's kind of been stuck in this kind of pyramid structure. And but he's also a sculptor, and he's got this 100-acre farm nearby here. And he moves these gigantic stones over here and then over there and over here, which is okay, because he employs a lot of people for him to do that kind of stuff. And it's okay, He's got lots of money, doesn't have to work, doesn't have to worry about it. And so he's, but, he is so around, like I said, Roanoke is the microcosm of America. So I see this guy, and I call them the usual suspects. So he's an activist kind of guy. He was part of this thing called Plowshare, and Plowshare is the most useless piece of crap because they have nothing. They're all about anti-war, but they don't do anything about, if you want to stop war, what do you do? They all have like investments in Sperry Rand and Lockheed and Boeing, and we want to stop the war. But anyway, and if you do have things, you should go to the stockholders meetings and raise heck, right? And that's what I used to do when I had access to those things, Anyway, like I said, I'm about to fall asleep here. So what time is it now? Oh, 9. I'll get a good night's sleep. So I worked hard. I raked the road some more, So I'm instead of spending $5,000 and getting a guy with a bulldozer who does it in 20 minutes, I've been doing it with, fixing John's road with a rake. And the other thing, all about a road, I'll tell you about a road. If you want a road to be fine, you get water not to go on it. John had gutters put on the house. Good idea. Had spouts, right? Good idea. Took the water away. Good idea. Where did he put all the water? The guy put all the drains out onto the driveway, which is like a 40-degree thing. So all this water goes down there and goes down the side. It's like digging trenches all through the road. So John bought these hoses to go on those spouts. He never put them down, So I spent one day putting these hoses that he had. I don't know when he bought them, but he's had them for a while and never, they were buried under leaves. When I was raking the leaves away from the house, look at these things. So I put them up there, right? And he started yelling, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to save the driveway because I'm, and I showed him how the water was cutting. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then he paid a guy $200 to come with a leaf blower. And, the guy didn't do anything because his leaf blower was like, all it did was make noise, I can blow more than the leaf blower. So he went down the road with a leaf blower, didn't do anything. So I went right behind him with a rake and said, "Hey, buddy, here's a rake." "I'm not going to use a rake. I got the leaf blower." It's like, that's kind of, again, a microcosm of the frigging world, There's a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work. People keep doing the shit that don't work over and over again. And Freud said, you keep doing the same stupid shit over and over again, expecting a different outcome, and it's not going to happen. It's a sure sign of insanity, right? So anyway, again, meditation, conscious awareness, conscious intent. That's your job for your own life. That's what I do. That's why I'm still alive, Yes, I was consciously aware of that. I dove into the pool of the chocolate corporate mousse and had 10 years of unbelievable hedonism. There was nothing wrong with that. There's a consequence. I died. But when on the other side, they said, "Well, that was fun, wasn't it?" I said, "Oh, yeah, it was fun. Now I can go." No. What do you mean, no? I said, "Well, you made an agreement back then that you were going to do this, this, and this. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm helping John Boy. That's why I'm helping all these other people, because I promised to do my best." So I'm doing that, right? So that's where we are, gang. And that's why I'm doing these shows. That's why I continue doing these shows and trying to. There's over 1,000 of you guys who watch this, Now, the algorithm only says 644, but I know that because from all the feedback I get, I know there are a lot of people watching. And then these other entities who are, oh, we think you're great. We want to just own you. I said, sure, but, you're not going to own me. You can, put me, I'd love to be Joe Rogan, sure, not a problem, or somewhere in between, So, or not, I'm doing just a great job what I'm doing, right? So I'm having fun. The thing that upsets me the most is when I see people harm themselves. John's a good example. He has all these gifts, all these talents, all this opportunity, big goose egg. And I feel so sorry for the guy. I've done my best to help him, but, again, I've spent a good now almost 50 days, I came here the day after New Year's. So that's, 30 days, give or take, right there. And here it is, February 28th. So, it's 50 something plus days, right? I've done a lot of helping, fix. Because I think my mom would say, drag a horse to water, can't make him drink, So John Boy, this was and again, I came to Roanoke to tie all these threads together, to kind of, because I'm moving on. I have other things to do, and I'm going to do them. I am doing them. And the secret to getting things done is, like John goes, no, there's a whole bunch of things that I physically did here. Cook for him, clean for him, fix the road, fix this, fix that, do this, do that, right? Well, I don't do them all, like today I spent a few hours, fooling around on the road, a few hours fooling on the other things I'm fixing here, and they're getting done, right? And so they'll be done. And I will leave this place better than I found it, right? So that's it. And, like, well, you only came here to stay warm. I said, no, the deep green. I spent 3 winters there. I was warmish. I survived, not a problem. I wasn't unhappy. I was happy. It was, when I was snowed in last year, it was beautiful. It was like winter wonderland. Instead of getting, I can't go anywhere. I just, every day, I said, boy, it's pretty. I sat outside. I had this, like, heat lamp above me, so it was like being in Florida. They didn't heat the air, but the infrared would heat my skin. It was like I was like a plate of French fries. You go to a restaurant and have those red lights. Well, I had really big ones. They're called dock heaters. And I was just sitting there on my porch underneath one of these things, typing away. Yes, the electric bill got a little high on that, but not that I couldn't afford it. So it went up by $12 that month that I sat out there and typed away. But it was beautiful, and when it was snowing or cold or windy or gray or raining or, I couldn't just sit out on my porch. I sat inside my man cave and wrapped myself up in an electric blanket. And, instead of spending $12 a month, I spent maybe $3 on that. So just kind of typed. And that's how I started writing 15 novels, And they were, I had a lot of fun writing those novels, and I hope one day people get a lot of something out of reading them. And again, if you can get yourself to Griot Publishing or xratted.blogspot.com, you might be able to read them. Some people have been able to get there. Others are like Google bought it. So it used to be a very easy little platform to do this, but now they made it difficult. So. But you want to get a hold of me, and we get, I've learned how to email these things to people. So you get a hold of me at, dudewake42 at Gmail, dudewake42 at Gmail. You can, and send me an email, say, hi, here I am. And I get over 100 emails a day, and maybe 50 to 60 of them are spam. So I don't always look at them, right? And now that I'm here and I get easy access to, Wi-Fi, I look at it more often. But when I'm out in the woods and I got to drive 40 miles to look at it, maybe once a week, if that, So I'm going to be here for a few more days. Anyone like this, hold me. Dudewake42 at Gmail. Dudewake42 at Gmail. And what else? That's about it. Hope you're doing good. Oh, yes, PayPal. Yeah, come on, send me some money. I mean, I'm really $400. It'd be nice to have a few more than $400. Have at least a little pillow of an economic, right now, $400. I don't spend money unless I have it. So, it's not like but something goes wrong or needs, could always use a few dollars as a pillow. So anyway, that was fun. I hope you enjoyed the show. Do another one tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Kiss, kiss, hug, hug, cuddle, cuddle. I love you all. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Boop, 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 boop.